They will tell her to be harder, to speak louder, to feel less. They will say the world belongs to those who don't bend, to those who don't cry, to those who build walls instead of bridges. But they're wrong. A woman's soft heart is not a flaw in her design. It is her design. In a world that rewards noise, she carries quiet strength. In a world that celebrates control, she chooses compassion. In a world that confuses cruelty with confidence, she stands with grace. Soft does not mean fragile. Soft means aware. Soft means brave enough to feel everything and still choose love. It takes no courage to shut down. It takes no strength to become cold. But it takes rare power to stay kind when life tries to harden you. Her softness is not surrender. It is discipline. It is resilience wrapped in empathy. It is power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. And today, we are not here to harden her heart. We are here to remind her the very thing they told you to hide is the very thing that makes you unstoppable. She was told that softness would cost her everything, that if she wanted to survive, she had to sharpen her edges, lower her expectations, silence her tenderness. The world handed her armor before it ever handed her understanding. It whispered, that power is loud, that leadership is cold, that survival demands distance. And somewhere along the way, she almost believed it. But here is the truth no one speaks loudly enough. A soft heart is not a liability. It is not a weakness waiting to be exploited. It is not an invitation for the world to walk all over her. A soft heart is controlled strength. It is deliberate compassion. It is power so secure in itself that it does not need to intimidate to exist. There is nothing fragile about someone who feels deeply and still stands tall. It is easy to shut down. It is easy to become numb. It is easy to replace care with indifference and call it maturity. But it takes extraordinary resilience to keep your heart open after disappointment. It takes rare courage to choose empathy when bitterness feels justified. A woman with a soft heart understands pain, not because she studies it from a distance, but because she has carried it. She has felt the weight of betrayal. She has known the silence of being misunderstood. She has experienced moments when her kindness was mistaken for naivety, yet she continues to care, not because she does not see the risk, but because she understands the value. The world often confuses gentleness with surrender. It assumes that if she listens instead of interrupts, she must lack conviction. If she forgives instead of retaliates, she must lack strength. But true strength is not measured by how much force you can apply. It is measured by how much pressure you can withstand without losing yourself. A soft heart does not mean she cannot set boundaries. It does not mean she cannot walk away. It does not mean she tolerates disrespect. It means she chooses her battles with wisdom instead of ego. It means she understands that not every storm deserves her energy. It means she can be calm in rooms that expect chaos. There is discipline in softness. Discipline to respond instead of react. Discipline to speak truth without cruelty. Discipline to remain compassionate without abandoning self-respect. That discipline is not accidental. It is built through reflection, through self-awareness, through countless moments where she could have hardened, but chose to remain human instead. Softness requires awareness. She notices the subtle shifts in tone, the quiet sadness behind someone's smile, the tension in a room before words are exchanged. That awareness is not fragility, it is perception sharpened by empathy. And empathy is one of the most powerful tools a human being can possess. Empathy builds bridges where pride builds walls. It creates conversations where silence would create distance. It heals wounds that force can only deepen. A woman with a soft heart carries this ability naturally. She can see beyond behavior into intention. She can recognize fear disguised as anger. She can understand that sometimes the loudest voices are protecting the most fragile insecurities. This does not make her weak. It makes her perceptive. It makes her emotionally intelligent. It makes her capable of navigating complexity without losing clarity. The rarest form of power is the kind that does not need to prove itself. It does not demand attention. It does not crave validation. It simply exists with quiet confidence. A soft heart operates from this place. It knows its worth without announcing it. It understands its boundaries without dramatizing them. There is a misconception that to lead, one must dominate. That to be respected, one must be feared. But history and experience show something deeper. People follow those who make them feel seen. They trust those who make them feel safe. They grow around those who offer encouragement instead of humiliation. A woman's soft heart creates environments where growth is possible, where mistakes are lessons instead of life sentences, where vulnerability is met with understanding instead of ridicule. That kind of atmosphere does not emerge from weakness. It emerges from inner security. Inner security is the foundation of real power. When she knows who she is, she does not need to compete for identity. When she understands her values, she does not bend to every opinion. When she respects herself, she does not chase approval. Softness does not eliminate strength. It refines it. It removes unnecessary aggression and replaces it with precision. It removes ego and replaces it with purpose. It removes impulsiveness and replaces it with intention. There will always be those who misunderstand her, those who think that because she speaks gently, she will accept less, those who assume that because she listens, she will not challenge, those who mistake her patience for passivity. But patience is controlled energy. It is the ability to wait without losing direction. It is endurance without bitterness. It is stability in a world addicted to reaction. A soft heart does not collapse under pressure. It absorbs impact and transforms it. It takes criticism and filters it through growth. It takes disappointment and turns it into perspective. It takes pain and uses it to deepen understanding. Pain can either harden or humble. Many choose to harden because it feels safer, it feels protective, it feels like armor, but armor is heavy. It restricts movement, it creates distance, and eventually it isolates. A soft heart chooses humility instead. It says, I will not let what hurt me define how I treat others. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Mastery over emotion does not mean suppression. It means awareness. It means recognizing anger without letting it control action. It means acknowledging fear without allowing it to dictate decisions. It means feeling sadness without surrendering to hopelessness. A woman who maintains her softness has mastered herself in ways that cannot be measured by titles or applause. She understands that power without compassion becomes tyranny. Influence without empathy becomes manipulation. Strength without kindness becomes intimidation. Her softness is strategic. It builds loyalty instead of fear. It creates respect instead of compliance. It inspires rather than coerces. In relationships, her soft heart allows depth. She does not engage in superficial connection. She values sincerity. She values presence. She values honesty. Even when it is uncomfortable, this depth can intimidate those who are not ready to be seen clearly. But it is exactly this clarity that makes her presence transformative. To love with a soft heart is to love intentionally. It is to give without losing self. It is to care without compromising dignity. It is to support without enabling harm. There is strength in knowing the difference. Boundaries are not the opposite of softness. They are its protector. A woman with a soft heart understands this. She knows that protecting her energy is not selfish. It is necessary. She knows that saying no does not cancel her kindness. It preserves it. When she walks away from environments that diminish her, she does so without theatrics, without bitterness. She leaves with quiet certainty. That certainty is power. There is something unshakable about someone who refuses to become cruel just because cruelty exists. It disarms hostility. It confuses negativity. It exposes insecurity. Her softness becomes a mirror. It cuts back to others what they choose to project. If they approach with respect, they receive warmth. If they approach with manipulation, they encounter firm boundaries. The heart remains soft, but the standards remain high. Standards rooted in self-respect are unbreakable. They are not loud ultimatums. They are quiet expectations. And when those expectations are not met, she adjusts her proximity instead of her principles. Softness also fuels resilience because when you allow yourself to feel, you process instead of suppress, you heal instead of stagnate. Emotional avoidance creates temporary relief but long-term damage. Emotional awareness creates temporary discomfort but long-term strength. A soft heart leans into awareness. It asks hard questions. It reflects on mistakes. It accepts responsibility without drowning in shame. It forgives others, not because they deserve it, but because carrying resentment is heavier than releasing it. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood strengths. It is not reconciliation at any cost. It is not forgetting. It is not excusing harm. It is choosing peace over prolonged anger. It is freeing oneself from the control of past wounds. A woman who forgives without losing her lessons demonstrates rare power. She refuses to let pain shape her into someone unrecognizable. She refuses to let bitterness steal her warmth. In professional spaces, her softness becomes emotional intelligence. She reads rooms. She navigates conflict calmly. She diffuses tension without escalating it. She communicates clearly without humiliating others. This does not make her less capable. It makes her more effective. Leadership rooted in empathy sustains teams. It reduces fear. It increases trust. People perform better when they feel valued. They innovate more when they feel safe. They contribute more when they are not constantly ending themselves. A soft heart creates safety. Safety creates growth. Growth creates excellence. The world is loud. Opinions are immediate. Reactions are impulsive. In such an environment, calmness stands out. Measured responses stand out. Compassion stands out. Softness becomes revolutionary. Choosing not to participate in unnecessary conflict is strength. Choosing to communicate instead of attack is strength. Choosing to understand before judging is strength. There will be moments when maintaining softness feels exhausting, when it seems easier to adopt indifference, when it appears that those who are ruthless move faster, but speed without foundation collapses. Aggression without wisdom isolates. Sustainable power is rooted in character, and character is built through consistent choices aligned with values. A woman's soft heart is anchored in values: integrity, compassion, honesty, respect. These are not decorative traits. They are structural. They determine how she responds under pressure. When chaos erupts, she does not amplify it. She steadies it. When negativity spreads, she does not absorb it. She filters it. When others attempt to provoke, she chooses composure. Composure is controlled strength. Her presence becomes grounding. People feel calmer around her, not because she avoids reality, but because she faces it without panic. She understands that strength is not the absence of emotion, but the management of it. There is beauty in that control, not rigid control that suppresses humanity, but fluid control that honors it. The rare power of a soft heart lies in its balance. It can comfort and confront. It can nurture and negotiate. It can support and stand firm. It does not swing between extremes. It integrates them. Integration is maturity, and maturity is powerful. A soft heart sees the humanity in others without losing sight of its own. It recognizes that everyone is fighting something unseen. It chooses grace where possible. It chooses accountability where necessary. Grace does not eliminate standards. It elevates them. It says, I will treat you with dignity, but I will also expect dignity in return. That balance commands respect. In a world where dominance is often mistaken for leadership, softness offers a different blueprint. One rooted in connection, one rooted in authenticity, one rooted in the understanding that influence grows stronger when it is chosen freely, not forced. Authenticity is magnetic. When she speaks from the heart, people listen. When she admits uncertainty, people trust her more. When she shares vulnerability appropriately, She gives others permission to do the same. Vulnerability is not exposure without boundaries. It is transparency with wisdom. It is honesty guided by discernment. A soft heart practices discernment. It knows not everyone deserves access. It knows not every argument deserves engagement. It knows not every opportunity aligns with purpose. Purpose anchors softness. Without purpose, softness can drift into people-pleasing. But with purpose, it becomes intentional service. Service is not submission. It is contribution. It is choosing to add value without losing identity. Identity remains intact because her worth is internal. It is not built on applause. It is not dependent on agreement. It is grounded in self-awareness. Self-awareness strengthens softness. When she knows her triggers, she manages them. When she knows her fears, she addresses them. When she knows her strengths, she uses them without arrogance. Arrogance is insecurity disguised. Softness does not need disguise. It stands openly, confidently. There is nothing more intimidating than someone who is calm, kind, and unshakably secure. Not loud, not aggressive, just certain. Certain of her values, certain of her boundaries, certain of her compassion. This certainty does not arrive overnight. It is developed through experience, through heartbreak, through mistakes, through reflection, through healing. Healing is an active process. It requires confronting uncomfortable truths. It requires releasing narratives that no longer serve growth. It requires choosing self-respect over self-sabotage. A woman who heals without losing her softness has done extraordinary internal work. She has faced pain without letting it define her personality. She has processed anger without weaponizing it. She has grieved without becoming cynical. Cynicism is easy. It feels protective. It feels intelligent, but it often masks unresolved hurt. Softness, when maintained consciously, signals resolution. Resolution creates peace. Peace enhances clarity. Clarity strengthens decisions. Decisions rooted in clarity are powerful. She does not chase validation from those who misunderstand her depth. She does not shrink to make others comfortable. She does not exaggerate to gain attention. She exists fully, and in existing fully, she challenges outdated narratives about what strength should look like. Strength can be gentle, authority can be compassionate, power can be quiet. Her soft heart is not an apology. It is not a disclaimer. It is not something to be corrected. It is rare because it requires courage. It requires discipline. It requires self-knowledge. And in a world that constantly pressures women to harden, to compete ruthlessly, to silence empathy in order to be taken seriously, choosing to remain soft while remaining strong is an act of defiance. Not loud defiance, not dramatic defiance, steady defiance, the kind that shifts cultures slowly, the kind that inspires others to reconnect with their own humanity. Her softness invites others to soften. And when people soften, they communicate better, they collaborate better, they connect better. Connection is power, not the power that controls, the power that influences, the power that transforms. Transformation rarely happens through force. It happens through example. A woman with a soft heart leads by example. She demonstrates that compassion and competence can coexist, that empathy and excellence are not opposites, that kindness does not compro. Me's capability. She proves that strength does not need sharp edges to be effective. And every time she chooses grace over hostility, boundaries over bitterness, empathy over ego, she reinforces a truth the world desperately needs to remember. Softness is not the absence of power. It is power refined. She learned early that empathy would be questioned, that feeling deeply would be called dramatic, that caring too much would be labeled dangerous. The world has a habit of mistranslating sensitivity, as if awareness were instability, as if compassion were confusion. But empathy is not excess emotion. It is controlled understanding. Empathy is the courage to step outside your own perspective and enter someone else's reality without losing yourself. It is strength disciplined by awareness. It requires presence. It requires listening without preparing a defense. It requires humility strong enough to admit that your view is not the only truth in the room. Many people avoid empathy because it demands emotional responsibility. It asks you to pause before reacting. It asks you to replace assumption with curiosity. That pause is power. That restraint is courage. A woman who leads with empathy does not lack authority. She expands it. She does not speak over others to prove intelligence. She listens first, then responds with clarity. And when she speaks, her words carry weight because they are measured, not impulsive. Empathy is not agreement, it is understanding. It does not require surrendering values. It requires recognizing humanity. She can disagree without disrespect. She can challenge without humiliation. She can hold firm without becoming cold. There is a quiet bravery in staying open when it would be easier to shut down. When someone lashes out, empathy looks beyond the volume to the wound. When someone fails, empathy looks beyond the mistake to the lesson. When conflict arises, empathy searches for resolution instead of victory. Victory feeds ego. Resolution builds growth. Empathy transforms communication. It changes the tone of a conversation. It lowers defensiveness. It creates space where honesty can breathe. People reveal more when they feel safe. And safety is not created by intimidation. It is created by respect. Respect begins with listening, not passive silence, but active attention. The kind that notices what is said and what is left unsaid. The kind that observes body language, tone, hesitation. This awareness is strength sharpened through emotional intelligence. A soft heart fueled by empathy becomes a stabilizing force. In tense environments, she does not escalate. She anchors. In uncertain moments, she does not attack. She assesses. In disagreements, she does not attack, clarifies. This steadiness is rare, and rarity is power. Empathy also requires boundaries. Without boundaries, empathy becomes self-sacrifice. With boundaries, it becomes sustainable strength. She understands that she can care without carrying what is not hers. She can support without absorbing. She can guide without controlling. There is discipline in that distinction. The world often rewards speed over depth, quick responses, immediate reactions, instant conclusions. But empathy slows the process. It asks for reflection. It demands patience. And patience is not weakness. It is self-control. Self-control allows her to choose her response instead of being driven by impulse. It allows her to speak truth without cruelty. It allows her to confront injustice without becoming unjust. Empathy does not ignore accountability. It enhances it. When she addresses wrongdoing, she does so with clarity, not condemnation. She focuses on behavior, not identity. She corrects without shaming. Shame creates defensiveness. Understanding creates change. A woman who practices empathy influences more than she forces. People listen because they feel heard. They improve because they feel supported. They trust because they feel respected. Trust is earned through consistency, and empathy requires consistency. It is not selective kindness. It is not reserved for convenience. It is a way of moving through the world with awareness. That awareness extends inward. She is empathetic with herself. She recognizes her own limits. She acknowledges her own mistakes. She forgives herself for not being perfect. Self-empathy strengthens resilience. It prevents burnout. It replaces harsh self-criticism with constructive reflection. It says, I am allowed to grow at my own pace. Growth rooted in empathy is sustainable. There will always be voices that say empathy makes you vulnerable, that it exposes you, that it puts you at risk. But vulnerability is not recklessness. It is openness with discernment. Discernment guides empathy. She does not offer unlimited access. She does not confuse understanding with permission. She can see someone's pain and still refuse to accept their disrespect. She can understand someone's struggle and still enforce her boundaries. That balance is emotional maturity. Empathy strengthens leadership because it aligns decisions with impact. She considers how her words affect others. She evaluates how her actions ripple outward. She understands that influence carries responsibility. Responsibility handled with empathy becomes integrity. Integrity is powerful because it is stable. It does not shift with trends. It does not bend under pressure. It does not disappear when recognition fades. A woman rooted in empathy leads with intention. She does not seek dominance. She seeks effectiveness. She does not aim to win arguments. She aims to solve problems. Problem solving requires clarity. Clarity requires listening. Listening requires humility, and humility is a quiet form of strength. Empathy also deepens relationships. It creates emotional intimacy. It encourages honesty. It builds loyalty. When someone feels truly understood, they lower their defenses. They reveal their truth. Truth shared in safe spaces strengthens connection. Connection is not control. It is mutual presence. It is shared understanding. It is respect exchanged without competition. A soft heart guided by empathy does not chase validation. It offers value. It does not demand attention. It commands it through authenticity. Authenticity resonates because it is real. It does not perform. It does not exaggerate. It does not pretend to know everything. Empathy allows her to admit uncertainty without feeling inadequate. It allows her to ask questions without feeling small. It allows her to grow without feeling threatened. Growth fueled by empathy is collaborative. It invites perspectives. It encourages diversity of thought. It values different experiences. Different experiences expand awareness. Awareness strengthens decisions. Decisions made with empathy consider long-term impact. They prioritize sustainability over short-term gain. They focus on alignment instead of approval. Approval is temporary. Alignment is lasting. A woman who leads with empathy does not crumble under criticism. She evaluates it. She extracts what is useful. She releases what is not. She remains open without being destabilized. Stability is internal. It is built through self-knowledge, through reflection, through learning from both success and failure. Empathy strengthens this stability because it reduces ego. When ego shrinks, learning expands. When learning expands, growth accelerates. Empathy also transforms conflict. Instead of asking, "How do I win?" she asks, "What is really happening here?" That question shifts the energy. It moves from competition to curiosity. Curiosity invites dialogue. Dialogue invites understanding. Understanding invites resolution. Resolution creates progress. Progress built on empathy lasts longer than progress built on force. Force creates compliance. Empathy creates commitment. Commitment is voluntary. It is stronger. It is sustainable. A woman who understands this does not need to overpower. She influences. She inspires. She encourages. Encouragement is not flattery. It is recognition of potential. It is belief expressed through action. It is support balanced with accountability. Accountability without empathy feels harsh. Empathy without accountability feels weak. Together, they create balanced leadership. Balance is power. Empathy is also courageous because it risks disappointment. When you care, you risk being hurt. When you invest emotionally, you risk loss. But avoiding risk eliminates depth. Depth enriches life. A soft heart chooses depth despite risk. It chooses connection despite uncertainty. It chooses understanding despite misunderstanding. Misunderstanding will happen. Not everyone will value empathy. Not everyone will recognize its strength. Some will test it. Some will challenge it. Some will attempt to exploit it. But exploitation does not define empathy. Boundaries protect it. Protection does not require hardness. It requires clarity. Clarity communicates expectations. It expresses limits calmly. It enforces standards consistently. Consistency reinforces respect. Respect rooted in empathy is mutual. Mutual respect strengthens collaboration. Collaboration amplifies impact. Impact guided by empathy improves environments. It reduces fear. It increases creativity. It fosters loyalty. Loyalty is not demanded, it is earned. Earned loyalty is durable. Durability is a sign of real power. Empathy may not be the loudest trait in the room. It may not dominate conversations. It may not demand applause, but it shapes outcomes quietly. It influences decisions subtly. It transforms relationships steadily. It elevates leadership authentically. A woman who embraces empathy as strength does not apologize for her softness. She refines it. She strengthens it. She wields it intentionally. She understands that empathy is not about absorbing everyone's emotions. It is about understanding them without drowning. Understanding creates wisdom. Wisdom guides action. Action aligned with empathy builds trust. Trust sustains influence. Influence exercised with compassion changes environments without violence. That is rare power, not explosive, not aggressive, but steady, intentional, unshakable. Empathy is not weakness. It is courage expressed through understanding. It is strength disciplined by awareness. It is a soft heart choosing to remain open in a world that often encourages closure. Kindness is often misunderstood. People assume it is passive, that it bends too easily, that it avoids confrontation. But kindness, real kindness, is deliberate. It is chosen in moments where anger would be easier. It is practiced when pride demands retaliation. It is maintained when the world offers every reason to become cold. A woman who chooses kindness in a harsh world is not unaware of reality. She sees it clearly. She sees the competition, the criticism, the indifference. She has felt the sharpness of words meant to diminish her. She has experienced the weight of expectations that were never meant to fit her. And still, she chooses not to let that sharpness define her character. That choice is power. Harshness spreads quickly. It feeds on reaction. It grows through ego. One insult becomes two. One misunderstanding becomes distance. One moment of anger becomes a pattern. Kindness interrupts that pattern. It pauses escalation. It shifts tone. It redirects energy. Interrupting negativity requires self-control. It requires awareness of your own emotions. It requires the strength to say, I will not mirror what harms me. That refusal is not weakness. It is discipline. Discipline is what separates reaction from response. Reaction is immediate. It is emotional. It is often loud. Response is thoughtful. It is intentional. It is measured. A woman rooted in kindness does not react impulsively. She responds with clarity. Clarity in harsh environments stands out. When others raise their voices, she lowers hers. When others accuse, she asks questions. When others attack, she maintains composure. This composure is not denial, it is control. Control over self is the highest form of strength. Kindness does not mean silence in the face of injustice. It does not mean accepting disrespect. It does not mean tolerating abuse. It means confronting